Ken Whiting with Paddle TV. I'm here on my continued mission to help people get outdoors and make sure their experiences are as great as possible. And that's why this video is about taking the pain out of paddling. You know, removing the barriers that stop people from enjoying paddling. And I'm going to talk about things like back pain, shoulder pain, and I'll start with butt pain, and more specifically, the things that are a pain in the butt when it comes to paddling and how you can make them less of a pain in the butt. And that's where we're going to start. And the biggest pain in the butt for most people when it comes to paddling, it has to do with getting the kayak to and from the water, transporting the kayak. Now, considering that kayaks are between 10 and like 17 feet long, they really aren't that heavy, but they're still heavy. And they're, more importantly, I think they're heavy and awkward to carry. They're typically around 40 pounds to, well, I would say typically between 40 and 70 pounds, but some fishing kayaks, sit on top fishing kayaks with all sorts of bells and whistles, they can be as much as 140, 150 pounds. But moving any hard shell kayak around is tricky no matter how heavy it is. And that's, well, the first way to alleviate the pain associated to getting one to and from the water is to actually go for a portable kayak, an inflatable kayak or a folding kayak. But that isn't completely removing the pain. Some of those can be fairly heavy as a backpack, but a lot easier to move around. But then you have the new pain of having to inflate and fold those kayaks to make them, and then at the end of the day, deflate or break down a kayak and pack it away. So definitely lesser pain than moving around a full-size kayak, but a pain nonetheless. So if you have a hard shell kayak, that's what you want to have, then one of the best ways to alleviate the pain of moving kayaks around is with one of these things, a kayak cart. And it actually surprises me how long it took me to really embrace the idea of a kayak cart and how few people know about kayak carts. They really can do an amazing job of alleviating the pain associated with transporting around, but they only do it if they're good. A bad kayak cart or the wrong kayak cart for the type of kayak you have can be as much of a pain as just carrying the kayak yourself to the water. Now, what I've got here is kayak carts of a variety, a small variety, because there's a bunch out there, but there's two companies here. This is Suspends, two types of kayak carts from Suspends. This is part of their airless cart series. It's airless because these wheels are hard. There's no air in there. You don't have to worry about having flat wheels. This is the heavy duty one here. This is, I think, the DLX. I'm not 100% sure the model number, but different styles. This one here is designed more specifically for kayaks that have slight V hulls, whereas this one is kind of designed to fit any kayak, as well as heavier kayaks, flat-hulled kayaks, pontoon-hulled kayaks, almost anything. These pieces here can be adjusted to different widths to cradle different hull styles of kayaks. Now, this one over here, this is a very new cart called the Kona Kayak Cart from Blue Dot Outfitters. Literally, this is one very new. It just came out. They just sent me this one to test, and I tested it and really liked it. It's a very similar system in a way to the heavy-duty Suspends, in that you can move these center pieces to fit the type of kayak, the hull of the kayak that you're using. And so these two kayak carts are as good as you get to being a one-size-fits-all kayak cart. Was definitely impressed with this, having tested this kayak cart. And Suspends, they've been doing this for a long time and they make quality products. You do have to make sure you get the right kayak cart for the type of boat you have, and their website helps you through that. So there you have it. Kayak carts help you get your boat to and from the water, but once you get to the water, there's another pain point that many people have, and that is getting into your kayak. Now, even for the youngest and most agile people, getting into and getting out of a kayak can be a bit of a challenge. For some people, it's more than just a bit of a challenge, it's a real pain in the butt. And it can even stop people from getting into paddling or trying paddling. And so here's a couple of things to keep in mind to make the getting in and getting out process easier. Number one, sit-on-top kayaks are much easier to get into or onto and out from than sit inside kayaks. So if you struggle with getting in and out, then consider a sit-on-top kayak. Now, why is that? Well, the first reason is pretty obvious. It's because you're not getting into something, you're climbing onto something. There's plenty of room for movement up there. You don't have to squeeze your legs into anything. But the other reason sit-on-top kayaks are easier to get into and to get off from is because the sitting position is a lot higher. You don't have to step down as far to get in or step up as much to get out of them. Now, on top of that, higher quality sit-on-top kayaks will come often with a seat that is adjustable with high and low sitting positions. That high sitting position, once again, makes it much easier to get onto the kayak. Now, something to know is that when you have a higher sitting position, your center of gravity is higher. And so you're going to be a little less stable than when the seat is low. Generally speaking, that's not a problem. If a kayak offers a low and a high sitting position, that means they've taken that into account. And it's stable enough to accommodate people sitting in a high position. So if you have trouble getting in and out, if it's a pain in your behind, then first of all, look at a sit-on-top kayak. Secondly, look at a sit-on-top kayak that offers a high sitting position. You probably will have to pay a bit more money for it, but if that means the difference between paddling and not paddling, not much choice. So the next pain we're going to talk about is lower back pain, which is something that I deal with, and I know a lot of you will deal with as well. For some people, it doesn't bother them when they're kayaking. It doesn't really bother me too much unless I spend a long time in there, but for some people, it's a real problem. Well, first of all, this is no big news. It doesn't matter what activity you do, if you're suffering from lower back pain, stretching and strength training are two great reasons to, they'll help your paddling, they'll alleviate some of the back pain, but they'll help everything that you do. So in particular, stretching your hamstrings, tight hamstrings can cause back pain when you're sitting in a kayak. It's definitely a real thing for kayaking because I'm sitting as if I was sitting in a kayak right now. My butt is at the same level as my feet in a typical sit inside or even sit on top kayak. In this position, in order for me to sit upright, if I have really tight hamstrings, this is not going to be comfortable at all. And so I have to work on my flexibility, but there's other things I can do to help with my pain. And one of those things is an elevated seating position. And just by taking this framed seat, now my butt is higher than my feet. And that's just a much more natural and more comfortable position to sit in. Here's the way to think of it is when I'm sitting here when my butt is the same height as my heels, in order to alleviate that pain, what do I have to do? I have to lean back. And that's why you see a lot of paddlers leaning back while they paddle, and they kick their back band right back, and now they're paddling. But that's a very awkward thing to do, is to paddle from a leaning back position. It's a core workout. You cannot keep that up for very long, and it's certainly not helping the situation. So how do you mimic this leaning back position? Well, if you raise your butt, that's effectively doing the same thing. It's reducing the angle of your back to your legs to your upper body. So the more you can raise the seat, the better. This is just raised a few inches, but if you have a kayak this is something I just talked about actually when we talked about the pain in the butt of getting into a kayak. But some kayaks offer high and low sitting positions where I can actually take the seat and put it on in the kayak. There's a shelf where it'll sit, and that'll raise the seat even that much more. And all of a sudden, my feet are significantly lower than my butt. It's going to be much more comfortable. once again, that's an upgrade found in not like super high-end kayaks only, but you do have to get a good kayak that'll offer that high-low sitting position. Of course, the other thing that helps, and usually comes like a frame seat like this, it offers much better back support. And that's huge. The other thing you can do is you can add a lumbar support. Some of them, like this seat right here, this is a seat from the Native Watercraft Ultimate FX12, and it offers some good lumbar support. I like it as is. But you can customize back supports. There's things that you can put on, like I know there's a Thermarest, an inflatable support that'll wrap right around and snap behind. You know, get creative, put some support in on the lower back, get a high seat, and that'll go a long way towards alleviating your lower back pain. The last type of pain that we're going to talk about is shoulder pain. And that can be a result of many years of paddling and your shoulders are just getting worn out, or maybe it was some injury that you've had, or maybe some other activity, who knows. But if you have pain in the shoulders, then the idea of paddling can be daunting and perhaps just end that conversation altogether, but it doesn't need to. What it does pretty much end is the idea of actual paddling. But that's the joy of pedal kayaks. Pedal kayaks, they've been a thing for a long time, but over the past really 5 to 10 years tops, they've exploded in popularity, primarily because of fishing. Because what they do is they allow anglers to pedal themselves around, and both their hands are free to fish while they're moving around. They provide an opportunity for people with shoulder pain to be able to experience the same thing that other paddlers experience. And there's so many kayaks to choose from, pedal kayaks, including inflatable, portable pedal kayaks, as well as, you know, high-end specialty pedal kayaks like fishing kayaks. You do pay for them. Pedal kayaks start around $1,500 US and can go up to over $4,000 US, but you can get a quality pedal kayak for between $1,500 and $2,000, and that can open up a whole world of paddle sports to someone who is suffering from shoulder pain. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and it takes some of the pain of paddling out of your experience. If there are other pain points that you want me to talk about, or if you have questions about ways you could reduce some of your pain, then feel free to leave a comment down below. I'll do my best to get to those. And as always, give this video a thumbs up if you like it. Subscribe to Paddle TV if you haven't already, and I'll see you again soon for another paddling tip or gear review.